Guenther Steiner, thanks for speaking with the Inside Line.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
We're still obviously in uncharted territory with COVID-19. How are things at Haas? And can you give me a sort of a broad overview of the situation at your different bases?
I mean, as you can imagine, in the moment, I think it's getting a little bit better. We get a little bit light at the end of the tunnel by talking when we come back. But it's difficult times for everybody, not only for Haas and F1, because the unknown, that is the difficult things. We are not used to, in my opinion, to have so many moving parts. You know, it's more like we have a target, a mandate, and we go towards it. But in the moment, it's like, where is the target? The target is moving because being also a global sport, the target is somewhere else in each country. You know, the target is when we can get over it. So it's not easy. A lot of work behind the scene to get on track again.
Has the virus outbreak affected the UK and US bases differently? I mean, the situation in the USA still looks very serious, as in the UK as well.
Yeah, I would say because we have got also a base in Italy. So Italy was hit first. That was straight when we came back from Australia, obviously. We had to shut down everything because it was hit hard. And then the UK followed maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And in the US, we are in a state where there is not as bad as in the north of the USA, like in New York. It's quite tame here. Hopefully it stays like this. I don't touch wood. I don't want to jinx it. But the moment here is the least of the worries. But in the moment, Italy is still not good and shut down, obviously, as a country. And the UK, everybody knows they just got hit 2 weeks ago hard. So it's difficult there. But we have got an issue because we had to close down the shutdown early because of Italy, and maybe we have to open late because of the UK. So this is all the things which we don't know, and obviously not knowing what is coming. It's always every day is a new challenge.
Do you think the sport has made the right moves during these difficult times?
I think they did the obvious move, and there is never a right move on things like this. You know, you just have to work by the day. They did a diligent job not to take any risk. We are talking a lot, trying to get the budget cut down, that all the teams are here for the long term, which is very important to all of us. I think it's important to the fans that we keep everybody in F1. We've got 10 good teams, and we should try to keep them. So I think FOM and FIA work very diligently as well to get this under control, the sport under control under these circumstances.
In terms of the cost-cutting measures, does the 2021 rules delay work in your favour? Has the sport gone far enough in terms of the cost-cutting measures it's implemented so far?
I think it hasn't gone in our favour. It has gone in favour of F1. You know, everybody, because everybody's challenged. If we don't race, we get no money. So in the moment we are not racing, so we just need to try to conserve cash in the moment and see that we have got something when we can get going again. And for sure, going into next year with the same car as this year will help a lot, will help everybody, because in a crisis like this, to make now a new car, not even knowing when and for how often we race this car would be a complete waste. So I think that was a very good move.
Are you in favour of a move further into 2023 as well, or are you happy with 2022 as it is?
I think at some stage, in the moment, I'm in favour of having the new car in 22. Because at some stage we need to make the step, you know, otherwise we talk about it and never do it. And that's not credible, in my opinion. Sure, if something changes in the world economically, we can always rethink it. But if we start already now to say, oh, let's do the car in 23 or in 24, it's never nice to jump in a cold swimming pool. Huh? So at some stage we have to do it, you know, and I think 22 is an achievable target for everybody. Everybody is challenged the same. So, but at some stage we need to modernize this sport.
The cost cap will be introduced next year, and a number of teams are wanting the further tightening on those on that cap, perhaps to even to 100 million. What are your thoughts on that in changing the cost cap figure?
I think we are making good moves now. I think we are very close to a final figure. For sure, we would like it low, but also we have to respect the big teams. We cannot be disrespectful of the big teams. To come down in the numbers is very difficult. So I hope we find the right compromise, that the small teams can make a good living and the big teams. On the other side, everything coming down from us moves us closer to the big teams. Maybe not as much as we want, but in the moment, we are hundreds of millions away, and all of a sudden we will be tens of millions away. So that's already a good result. So let's see how far we can bring it down and go from there.
Back to Haas, how much time is needed to reawaken Haas for a return to racing? And then what would the prep look like from there?
It will take between 4 and 6 weeks, I would say, because everything when it came back from Australia was just the boxes put in the shop and then opened, so the humidity goes out, but everything, we need to go back to a normal day of work. And you know how it is if you are furloughed for mothballed for a few months. It takes longer than if you go in every day to work. So I think we need a little bit of a warm-up time, like an old diesel, to get going again, you know. So, but 4 to 6 weeks should be plenty.
Andreas Seidel of McLaren has said the public's acceptance of the return to racing is also a very important factor in terms of the return. Do you agree with that?
I would say yes, but public acceptance, I think they accept it because they assume that we are diligent about this. Because I think once we get there, we need to make sure that what I said before is happening, that we are not just going there and being rogue. But I think we are more sophisticated than that, and I think when we go there, it will be accepted. You know, they will know that we took every measure we can. You can never be 100% with something like this, but 99.9% that we took the right measures. And if something happens, we can explain why it happened. We can follow it through where it happened, and that is already a good step. So the public acceptance will be there if we show them that we are diligent and did everything we can to make it safe.
Last year was a tough campaign for Haas. What are your feelings about the 2020 car, and how will a potentially packed calendar affect development, especially if you have another deep-seated issue?
I mean, going back to where we are with the car, I need to think back on Barcelona testing, which the midfield is very closed, and I think it will be very tough. But unfortunately, we didn't do any proper running competitiveness-wise with other in a race event. So it's still speculation, but I think the midfield is it's very tight, and the development. You still develop, but for sure on a tight calendar, and also with the reduced financials, there will be not a lot of development possible, because you just race from race to race. Basically, small team like us, we haven't got the capabilities and the capacity to throw new parts on it if we race almost every weekend, if that is going to happen. Hopefully that is going to happen. But I think it will be a different season this year. It will be a lot different, but I think somehow that is good, because at least the fans get to see something different, and it's exciting. So because everybody will be in a very similar boat, at least the medium people. There is not enough time to do development, because in the moment there is no development happen. Everything is on a shutdown, all Formula One, so nobody can develop. So it's like we start to develop, but time is running out pretty quick, because then you focus on next year. Even by taking a lot of parts over for next year, you still develop your aerodynamics for next year.
Obviously, Haas is a fantastic, team, punching well above its weight, limited headcount, doing everything it can. What, in terms of the back of last year, what sort of procedures have you put in place to try and help you, find issues in technical, bugbears or what have you, so that sort of thing doesn't hamstring the team in future campaigns?
No, obviously we started with putting remedies in mid of last year. So in 20 we are not in the same position. It's basically being a little bit more critical of upgrades and how the car behaves. And we put this one in place. It was, as you said, a very challenging season last year, but I think we got a better understanding. You always try to learn out of mistakes, and I hope we learned enough. It's always, when you go down, you cannot bounce back immediately, but I think we will bounce back, maybe not as strong. We will not keep on going like we finished 18 and keep on going up. We had a big hit in 19, and now we need to go back where we were in 17/18. So that is what we are trying to do, and we put things in place internally that we are more critical about ourselves and don't believe our own propaganda.
In terms of moving forward this year, how will it affect your staff if it's 3 weeks on, 1 week off? Potentially up to a 19 race calendar for 2020.
I mean, for sure it will be challenging, but nobody comes out of this one undamaged, I would say. Even you guys, everybody has got some damage. And I think in the moment the guys are at home, obviously, which is not nice, doing nothing now and then working for 6 months continuously. But I think if you have to do it, you just have to pull through, and we will see who is with us and who is against us. Good people, they will just roll their sleeves up for 6 months, even if it is tiring and consuming. But we need to get it done, and you need to see the material people are made out of. But I think everybody is facing a similar challenge in the world in the moment with this pandemic, and we all know that in the moment we all get hit by, and we all need to work harder to get back, as much as we don't like to restart or make a step back. But sometimes in life that happens, and we need to be conscious and just man up to it.
How will it affect driver negotiations? Obviously, that's the last thing you're thinking of at this point. but just in terms of where the contracts, how does it work with that? Is it just existing? The 2020 season is the 2020 season?
Absolutely. In the moment, the 2020 season is the drivers. I speak with them, update them every week, but there is nothing going on with negotiations or anything. I think it's like a ceasefire in the drivers' market in the moment, because I think if you start throw that one in, you've got so many issues to solve, to keep on going. So the driver is not a big problem in the moment. It will get to let's say September, October, but in the moment there is not even not any fault spent about the driver for next year.
Thank you, Guenther. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. The same to you guys. All the best and stay safe.
Thanks for watching. To stay up to speed on all things Formula One, make sure you hit the subscribe button.